As long as you keep your head to the sky, you can win. As long as you keep your head to the sky, you can win. Yes, as long as you keep your head to the sky, you can win. Yes, as long as you keep your head to the sky. Be optimistic. Gotta be optimistic. Gotta be optimistic. Gotta be optimistic. Gotta be optimistic.
Start my day with love. When I start my day with love, that's what I get more of, is love. I start my day with love. When I start my day with love, that's what I get more of, is love. Love, love, love. Love, I start my day with love. I start my day with peace. I start my day with joy, and I feel that sweet release. I start my day with love. I start my day with peace. I start my day with joy, and I feel that sweet release. I start my day with love. I start my day with peace, and I get more peace. I start my day with joy, and I get more joy. I feel that sweet release. I start my day with love, and I get more love. Give peace, and I get more peace. Give joy, and I get more joy. Sweet release. I start my day. Give love, and I get more love. Give peace, and I get more peace. Give joy, and I get more joy. Sweet release. Give love, and I get more love. Give peace, and I get more peace. Give joy, and I get more joy. Sweet release. Give love, and I get more love. Give peace, and I get more peace. Give joy, and I get more joy. Sweet release. Yes. Yes.
What comes from the heart reaches the heart. Good morning and welcome to our Heartstream for this Sunday, February 13th, 2022. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and I want to say happy Valentine's Day to each and every one of you. I express my love for all of you on this day or this time that we celebrate loving in a romantic way, in a way with relationships. I know for many people this can be a problematic time, but my wish for you is strength and healing and experience the joy of love. And I want to take a moment to say a special happy Valentine's Day to my wife, Emma Elaine Crystal. I love you, baby, and happy Valentine's Day to you. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that our friend and brother Cedric Moore's sister Charmaine transitioned, and we're holding the space, holding Cedric and his family in prayer, and we'll let you know of arrangements when we hear about them. But let him know, because I know that he watches this Heartstream each and every week. He's been a faithful contributor to many of the archival videos that you see, but that we are holding the space in love for each and every one of his family members. Let us take a moment and turn within. Being grateful and thankful for this day and for the awareness of love as it expresses itself, love as self-givingness. I know that we continue to move forward in this Heartstream to experience the expressions of love in so many different ways, in the music and in the affirmative reading, in the centering moment, in the message, and in all of the things and all of the ways in which this Heartstream continues to go out, continues to serve as a beacon of light and love and hope and encouragement and inspiration for so many. We remember Cedric Moore and his family, the loved ones who are here as their loved one, Charmaine, has transitioned. We continue to hold a space for all the others who continue to bereave and grieve the loss of loved ones. Hold the light, hold the space for them, for everyone else on our prayer list, understanding that God is, and all fades into God and continues. And we know this. We have our trust and our belief and our faith in this. And it brings us strength, it brings us courage, and it brings us whatever else we need for each and every moment. I'm grateful and thankful for each person that is experiencing this and watching this now, and for the many ways in which they support Open Heart. And may we continue to know Spirit, to know God moving in everything that we do, in everything that we are. And with joy and gratitude, I release my word into the creative medium. It's already done in the mind of God, so I simply release it, let it go, and know that so it is. I greet you. I bless you. I see God in you. Our purpose statement. Our purpose is to create a spiritual community which recognizes that there is one presence and one power in the universe, God. Daily, we actively practice this spiritual truth. We open our heart space to each person to acknowledge one another as expressions of God. It is in each other that we see God.
Our theme for the month of February. What about love? God so loves me that it continually expresses in, through, and as me. I am inspired, open, and available to the fullest experience of life. And so it is.
Good morning, Open Heart. Today's affirmative reading comes from the book Love Yourself First, Boost Your Self-Esteem in 30 Days by Mark Ricklaw. We are told to love our neighbor as ourselves, but most of the time we love the neighbor, but we do not love ourselves. We see the good in others and fail to see it in ourselves. We neglect the most important relationship we have in our lives, the one with ourselves. The golden rule for your self-esteem will be from here onwards, love yourself like you love your neighbor. Be as forgiving with yourself as you are with your neighbor. Like yourself and others will begin to like you. You cannot expect to love others if you do not love yourself first. Accept yourself as you are and remember that you don't have to be perfect to be great. Start spending more time with the most important person in your life, you. Enjoy going to the movies with the best company you can imagine, you. Get comfortable with spending some alone time. Find a place where you can disconnect from the speedy everyday life and where you can permit yourself to be you. Permit yourself to be human. Recognize your value as a person. Know that you deserve respect. If you make a mistake, don't beat yourself up over it. Accept it and promise yourself to do your best not to repeat it. That's it. Be selfish, not egocentric selfish. Only by being well within yourself can you transmit the wellness to your surrounding environment. If you feel great, everybody benefits. You'll be a better husband, wife, son, daughter, or friend. It all begins with loving yourself. Today's affirmation is, I will love myself first.
Black history is a part of history year-round. But traditionally in the month of February, we highlight the accomplishments of Black Americans and beyond. And courtesy of the Center for Spiritual Living in Dallas, we are featuring the pioneers and evolutionaries of science of mind. Hope you enjoy.
Here's a little-known Black history science of mind fact. Meet Sarah Flowers, a prolific African-American writer of science of mind books in the 1940s. Flowers was a writer, publisher, metaphysician, frequent speaker, and teacher of the science of mind. She took the major course at the Institute of Religious Science in Los Angeles in 1937 and wrote her first book, Common Sense and Its Application in Everyday Life, in 1941. Other books followed, including The Metaphysical Thesaurus and Metaphysical Dictionary, Should I Pay for Metaphysical Treatment, and Atomic Metaphysics, The Electrical Principle of Man. In Atomic Metaphysics, she writes, in metaphysics, we must then recognize that there is a power that revolves in and around, out and beyond us at a rate equal to the atomic energy in our material beings. But it's important to note what Sarah Flowers considered her most important work. Teaching practitioners metaphysical treatment for all of the problems that confront us today. You might think Science of Mind's inclusive teachings of oneness would be immune to America's history of racial segregation, but that was not the case. Dr. J. Arthur Twine founded Eastside Church of Religious Science in his home in 1932. The congregation quickly grew and became the third church to be ordained and chartered by Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science. It was a thriving, multiracial church, but in 1945, Third Church of Religious Science, as it was now called, was moved to the bottom of the church listings in Science of Mind magazine and noted as a colored church. Ernest Holmes found this unacceptable and went to speak to church members. He said, "I have been told that too many non-Caucasians attend these lectures. True, there are Caucasians and non-Caucasians in this congregation, but this we must affirm. We are all children of one living God, one God that permeates all without exception, one intelligence that governs all, and most important, every man and woman who abides in the universe is a significant entity in the one universal consciousness. Our doors will forever be open to all. Whoever you are, be proud. You are a divine idea in the mind of God." The magazine staff immediately corrected this error and returned to listing churches alphabetically. The following year, Dr. Twine made his transition, but the church remains strong today as Third Church Center for Spiritual Living. A number of Dr. Twine's descendants became practitioners, lay leaders, and ministers, including his great-granddaughter, Reverend Stacy Hilton, who currently serves as co-spiritual director of the Las Vegas Center for Spiritual Living. Dr. J. Arthur Twine and Sarah Flowers, Black evolutionaries in Science of Mind.
Good morning. These are your announcements.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Just have a happy day. Today is a day like no other day. Just think and you'll know that it's true. Days like today should be holidays. So I'm singing this message to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Just have a happy day.
National School Counseling Week has ended, but I couldn't let this time go by without honoring two of our own, Jocelyn Johnson and Ashley Bowles. Former First Lady Michelle Obama had this to say about the incredible school counselors in this country. School counselors see the promise in each of their students and work tirelessly to help them be who they were truly meant to be. They are there for their students in their darkest moments, when they're most anxious and afraid, and show them that they matter. And they do it all in the face of some overwhelming challenges and endless demands for their time. I couldn't be more grateful for all that they do to transform the lives of our young people every day. I couldn't agree more, and again, congratulations and thank you, Jocelyn and Ashley, for all of the work that you do and for all of the other school counselors. Again, we commend Matthew Lee for his show at the Dixon Gallery and Gardens. Coming up is a Meet the Artist reception on Thursday, February the 17th from 5:30 to 7:30. And it's a great opportunity to come out and share with others as they spend time with Matthew and have an opportunity to view his exhibition. If you haven't done so, take the opportunity to do so today. A reminder to those who are participating in our course, Transform Your Life, that we will meet this Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Hope to see you there. At Open Heart, we believe in the power of affirmative prayer. For all of those that you see on this list, knowing for you your healing, your wholeness, your comfort, your strength, and for all of the needs that you might have in this moment. We're holding this space for you. We're seeing God already moving in your life, knowing that whatever it is that you might need, it is already done in the mind of God. And we extend our prayers beyond this list to each and every one of you that are part of this Heartstream, knowing for you your best, knowing for you the ultimate in healing, in wholeness, in transformation, in life itself happening for you. And so it is. I'm always grateful to those who provide an affirmative reading. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And this is your opportunity to submit a video to Jay Gilmore at Openheartspiritual.org. Our daily affirmative prayer call takes place each and every morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. Dial in as one of our prayer team members shares an inspirational reading and then prays for you, all in about 7 minutes. It's time for conscious giving. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am richly blessed, creating a greater and greater flow. 3 ways to give: our Cash App, hashtag OHSC901, online at OHSC901.com, or by texting the word give to 615-422-4292.
I welcome you to the centering moment. I invite you to take a moment in the midst of all the joy that this celebration is, to take a moment to turn deep within, to prepare to hear spiritual guidance, divine messages, to hear from the divine through our speaker, the one and only John Gilmore today. Let's take a breath in and out. Let's take a breath in and out. Let's just get that third breath in and out. And out. Be centered, be focused, and as always, be blessed. You are loved.
I know that tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and I had every intention of doing a message about love in the context of romantic relationships, and in a way that would even acknowledge those who are not in a romantic relationship, or those who choose not to be for whatever reason, or not celebrate Valentine's Day. But every time I sought Spirit's guidance to help me to shape a message in that manner, it kept taking me back to love in a broader context. And I know that it's oftentimes popular for ministers, especially around this time of year when we focus on love, to talk about the four Greek ideas of love, agape, philia, storge, and eros. But that doesn't work for me. It's something just for years I've not delved into. It's okay for those who subscribe to that way of thinking and like to teach from that perspective. But for me, love is love. It's love. And as I talk about that today, I can think about the fact that I had a conversation this week with someone about how we do the Heartstream for Open Heart. And when I describe the process, the fact that it begins in a program that's on my computer, I compile all of the different videos and other elements that are used to make up what you see and experience each Sunday. And then from the computer, it goes to a platform that's located online. And that platform then streams it out to YouTube and Facebook. So you have one source that is located on the computer that has the many expressions that are there. But it ultimately comes out in many different ways. And for me, that's what love is. That is what loving is. That is how I understand when I start to talk about God and God as loving. That's what it's like for me. That one source out of which everything else flows, and flows in many different directions and many different understandings. And you hear me say all the time that one of the keys to grasping our teaching is to understand and be aware of how we think about God. And I say how we think about and understand God is important because it leads to how we respond to God. There have been so many notions and ideas that have been taught around God. And I recall going one time to a event at a school where they had the children talking about various literature that they had discovered that had changed their life. And I was interested very much in the table where I saw many people gathered around. And as I made my way over there, there was a young man who had chosen the sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God by Jonathan Edwards, a minister from many, many years ago. In fact, in another century, he wrote this about a wrathful God who at any moment could cast any of us into hell. And the only reason why we weren't already cast by God into hell was because of God being tolerant of us, but waiting for us to accept Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior and all that. But the kind of angry, wrathful, vengeful nature of God that was presented in that sermon that he was trying to scare people into Christianity. And I listened to the young man talk about the sermon and talk about it in a way and started to say, well, it's true. And I was really surprised to hear him say that, being so young, but also the fact that there were many people gathered around the table listening to him who agreed with him as well. And I really just kind of reflected on those ideas and notions that have been a part of which many of us have come up through and have heard and oftentimes been taught, and how a lot of us who are in New Thought and who find New Thought are actually in recovery from those kinds of things and that kind of thinking. That notion and idea of God who is vengeful and wrathful and judgmental, who's judgmental against certain people, maybe because of sexual orientation, or judgmental against them because maybe they might be differently abled, or judgmental because of their race or their color of their skin or their nationality or the religious beliefs that they hold, and all of that, and how we do have to be in recovery from that. But I'm not here to talk about that this morning. I'm here to talk about our notion and concept of God and God as loving. And as a part of this process, I also started to think about the book, the novel, the movie, and the musical, The Color Purple, that was written by Alice Walker, and the story of Celie, who it starts out with her writing letters to God because she was abused and raped by her father, and as a 14-year-old girl growing up in rural Georgia. And after a while, she was married off to a man named Mr., who also abused her and who brought in his lover, Shug Avery, and all of the things that Celie faced. She was separated from her sister that she assumed was dead, didn't know that Mr., her husband, was hiding letters from her and evidence of her having moved to Africa, or all of the things that were going on, all of the difficulties that she went through in life, and how, though, at one point, we see in the novel, we see in the musical, and in the movie, some things happen, and she began to realize another way of understanding God and another way of God being in her life. And I hear this quote from Ernest Holmes coming to mind in this moment. The love is the self-givingness of the spirit through the desires of life to express itself in terms of creation. And you and I and everything else are that creation. The nature of God is of self-givingness. Now, I know that my spell check on my computer doesn't recognize the word givingness, but the nature of God is givingness. It is constantly giving, and it's self-giving, that God expresses out of itself, you and I and everything else, that God constantly and continually is creating and renewing and restoring and revitalizing and giving energy to you and I and all of the things that we experience and all of who we are and all of the creativity that is a part of us. And that is what is happening when we describe the nature of God as self-givingness, when we describe the love as self-givingness. But to say that we believe those things, we have to get out of understanding God as being outside of ourselves, as she started out in that novel to see God as outside of her and writing letters trying to bring some understanding and awareness to her life, but get outside of that. And rather than God being a man or a woman, that God is spirit, God is energy, that God is presence. But saying that is not enough. Saying that we believe these things is not enough. There's something more that we have to do. We must become the presence of God, because God dwells in us, and we must become the presence of God. And the practicing of the presence is something that is essential to our lives, that is essential to the way of being for us. We have to understand that and realize that and move in that perspective and move in that direction. But I know that saying that and really embodying that and being that can be difficult, because we oftentimes have trouble seeing our finite bodies containing something unlimited and vast. I know when I first began Open Heart and began teaching this, there were people who came to me with having trouble when I would talk about the fact that we are God in expression, and they were continually thinking about God way outside and saying that we are God is somehow blasphemous and everything else. But I was trying to get across to them the notion that we're talking about the expression of God, the full expression of God is in each and every one of us, and it expresses in, through, and as us. We are the emanations of God. And so it's easier, though, to believe God as being outside of us. And it leads us to something else, and that is where we tend to objectify God. We tend to see God as a noun. So in other words, in order to experience God and to relate to God, we have to go to places to find God. We have to go to church or the synagogue or the mosque or a temple or somewhere to find God. We see God being in places, or God leaving us behind, or God not talking to us, or God being angry with us, or whatever else, because we see God as a noun. We see God as outside of us. But it's important, again, to begin understanding that God is love. God is loving. God is that process, and God is not a noun. God is an action. God is the act of loving. God is lovingness and the energy of loving. God is, and love is, the self-givingness of spirit. And one of the reasons why I say that God is not a noun is because nouns don't exist. Nouns symbolize a state of consciousness that has brought those things into the present moment. Those things into the present moment. If I were to ask you what this is, and I remember doing this one time at Open Heart, and everybody looked at me blankly, and I said, it's not a test, simply a question. What is this? And you would look at this and you say, it's a piece of paper. It's a paper. And paper is a noun, it's a thing, but there was a consciousness that brought this paper into being. There was a consciousness and an awareness that by taking wood, taking trees and making wood pulp, and taking that wood pulp and taking it through the process that will ultimately result in paper, that paper, though, is a result of that consciousness. But if I take this paper and I begin doing this, then this becomes more than just paper. You would see the action that I'm doing, and you would say that now I am fanning, that this paper has become fan. And this fanning actually is that what this paper is embodying in this moment. It's a fan. And when I use this paper to fan, that fanning is not a noun, but fanning is an action. It is a verb. It is a way of understanding things. It is a way of seeing things, how things become transformed. And the fact that God is not omnipresent, but God is omnipresence. For God to be present, God would have to be an object someplace. God is everywhere. God is expressing in, through, and as everything. So God is omnipresence. God is loving. And when we call on God, our higher consciousness, to do something, it means we think of God as a noun. We think of God as something, but things have already been done. It's already been done in the mind of God. We're asking God to do something that's already been done. It's like asking the sun to shine. The sun already is. The sun already is shining. And even in those moments when it might be cloudy outside and we're asking the sun to shine, the sun already is shining. It's constantly shining. It's there. It's just that it's obscured by the clouds. And in the same way, we have to understand that God is a process that continues to work. God is loving. God continues to express its self-givingness as loving. And when we do that, we see that God is giving of itself every day, every minute, every hour, expressing as you, expressing as me, expressing as everything else. I issued last week in my message the challenge for us to enter into 30 days of loving, 30 days of extending loving thoughts, first of all, to ourselves, loving thoughts to ourselves. Whenever we look in the mirror and we see things that we're not satisfied with, extending loving thoughts to that and knowing that these bodies that we have, while they may not be made in the image in which we see so often in social media now, the perfect bodies and the exercising and really the plastic surgery in many cases and the photoshopping that has brought those things about, or the lifestyles of people that we want to sometimes emulate and see happening, and so we feel dissatisfied with ourselves. But to send loving thoughts to ourselves. When we hear the rhetoric and things that are happening in this world today, with terms of politics and race relations and the economy and the pandemic and everything else, rather than getting caught up in that and taking down the rabbit hole that just gets our minds all confused and twisted and cause us to have bad feelings and everything else, to send loving thoughts and continue to hold the space for loving thoughts in that way. When we can do that for 30 days, going into March the 6th, and I hope that we will do that after that, but being intentional and consciously aware of the fact that we can be that loving presence in the world. We can be that loving presence in this country, and we can do in our own way, within ourselves, that process and continue to express and to extend love. That is important. And as we do that, we continue to find things that bring us in the way that we need to do, in the way to express and to experience God as loving, and to then know that the self-givingness of spirit is not just a phrase, it's not just a term, but it is an action that is happening in our lives. It's an action that brings us a sense of gratitude for each and every day. It's an action that makes us want to get up in the morning and face a new day, no matter what we might have experienced on yesterday, what we might have left undone, or whatever else, because we realize it's a day full of promise, potential, possibility, and opportunity. The self-givingness of spirit that propels us through relationships. And even those relationships that are not ideal, those relationships where there are issues and problems, it propels us through those and allows us to get things in perspective. And where there is hurt, where there is healing that needs to take place, the self-givingness of spirit is healing for us. It's awareness for us. It's growth for us. It's a realization for us that we are the expression of God and that God is within us. I mentioned the color purple and the idea of Celie looking at God outside of herself and all of the things that she was experiencing, that there comes the end of the story where she begins to recognize and to realize that God's not out there. That she's been told by Suge that God is not a man or anything that she'd been taught or anything like that, but that God was in her. But she had reached a point where she realized that God was in her, that she was an expression of God, and she was able to take a talent that she had of making pants and to do something to transform her life and to make a difference. And that is really, really, for me, a powerful and transformational moment in that entire story, as something that I resonate with over and over and over again. And I'd like to end this message and end this Heartstream with the words from the song and the song itself. Sorry, Mom, I apologize for having another song at the end, but the song from The Color Purple, where Suge says to Celie, God ain't some gloomy old man like the pictures you've seen of him. God ain't a man at all. God is inside you and everyone else that was or ever will be. We come into this world with God, but only them that look inside find it. God is the flowers and everything else that was or ever will be. And when you feel the truth, so real, and when you love the way you feel, you found it. Just as sure as moonlight blessed the night, like a plate of corn, like a honeybee, like a waterfall, all a part of me, like the color purple. Where do it come from? Open your eyes, look, See what God has done. The self-givingness of spirit. Love. See what God has done. Be what God has done. And so it is.
Dear God, dear stars, dear trees, dear sky, dear people, dear everything, dear God. God is inside me and everyone else that was or ever will be. I came into this world with God, and when I finally look inside, I found it. Just as close as my breath is to me. Rising like the sun is the hope that sets us free. Your heartbeat make my heart beat when we share love like a blade of corn, like a honey bee, like a waterfall, all a part of me, like the color purple. Where do it come from? Now my eyes are open. Look what God has done. He takes a grain of love, a grain of love, mighty tree, in the smallest form, can make a harmony, like a drop of water, river high, your miracle for you and I. I don't think us feel old at all. I think this the youngest us ever felt.
I thank you for being so real and touching me, letting me see